Let's generate our motivation. At the beginning of the Heart Sutra, Shariputra asks Avalokiteshvara how someone who wants to practice the perfection of wisdom should train. And Avalokiteshvara responds, directing what he says to someone who wants to practice the perfection of wisdom. So, do we want to practice the perfection of wisdom? Or do we just want to know about it intellectually? Or maybe even the perfection of wisdom frightens us a little bit because we misinterpret it and think nothing exists. So someone who wants to practice the perfection of wisdom, as the text said yesterday, has a motivation of bodhicitta. And because of their love and compassion for all sentient beings and their fervent wish to alleviate their misery and samsara and to lead them to full awakening, someone with that kind of compassion and bodhicitta then wants to practice the perfection of wisdom and train their mind in that, because they know that that is the one and only thing that will cut the root of the self-grasping ignorance. And that self-grasping ignorance is the root of our samsara. So we see, going backwards, to attain full awakening, we have to cut the root of samsara. To do that, we have to overpower the self-grasping ignorance. And to do that, we need to learn about the perfection of wisdom. And to really have the perfection of wisdom, then, for the disciples that the text is really dedicated or directed towards, then we need the bodhicitta motivation. In order to have bodhicitta, we need to renounce samsara, renounce the dukkha of samsara, and know that there's something better in life than just running around looking for sense pleasure. So spend a couple of minutes to develop this kind of attitude, beginning with renunciation, going to bodhicitta, then wanting to learn the perfection of wisdom. tomorrow, could we record the chanting we do at the beginning, all of it? Because I'd like to send it to some people, and since we can't put the Manjushri chant online, we need to record it ourselves. Okay? Okay, yeah, then if you can cut that part out and send it to me. Good. Yeah, because we're not streaming this, so it's okay. But when we send it to, Gompa Services, I think we'll have to cut it out at that point, no?
Can let them decide.
Okay. I like it, but we do, some people. Okay, wake up. Come on. This is very strange. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So last time we ended with the discussion of Buddha nature. Is that correct? Yesterday was a long time ago. Okay. So now the following question, or following the question from Shariputra to Avalokiteshvara, there is a section in which Shariputra's question is connected to the next answer. Okay, so the text is, when this has been said, the holy Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, spoke to the Venerable Shariputra and said, Shariputra, any noble son or noble daughter who wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should clearly see this way. They should see perfectly that even the five aggregates are empty of inherent existence. Oh, didn't we do this part? Yeah, we did. Stop me if I, yeah. I said, you agreed with me that we ended with Buddha nature, but you must have been sleeping through the rest that I did, because we did more than that. Yeah, we talked about ultimate bodhicitta. Okay, so now we're on the section after that. Okay. So earlier in Avalokiteshvara's concise summary of the presentation of wisdom, it is stated that someone who wishes to engage in the practice of the perfection of wisdom should see perfectly that even the five aggregates are empty of inherent existence. As we saw in the previous chapter, the concept of the five aggregates is intimately connected with the issue of the nature and existence of the self, the topic to which we now turn our attention. It so happened that many different philosophical schools evolved in ancient India that contemplated this question in depth, all of which underline the critical importance of this question, particularly in relation to our understanding of causality. So why are we investigating the nature of the aggregates? Why is that something important to understand the nature of the self? Because the self is depends on the aggregates. Yeah? Without the body and mind, we could not identify a person. We could not say a person exists. Okay? So it's funny in our language, when somebody dies, we say that person is dead, or there's the dead person. But actually, once the consciousness leaves, there's only the dead body. There's not the mind. So actually, there's no person there. But we grasp so strongly onto there being a person that even the body's there, we somehow feel like the person's still around in some way. Yeah. But once the body and mind have gone their own directions, there's no person. The body gets recycled. The mind goes on to the next life, in the case of ordinary beings. Okay, so now all beings naturally possess an innate desire to be happy and to overcome suffering. But how exactly does suffering arise? What is the nature of the self that experiences suffering and happiness? When you're happy, when you're miserable, do you ever say, who is this that's happy or miserable? Yeah? No, it's just, I'm happy, I'm miserable, and the world is the cause of either my happiness or misery. But actually, we should stop and say, who is it? Who's this I that is happy or miserable? Because we have some idea of what this I is that we are so imbued with that we never even realize we have it, and we never question it. Yeah, but it's good to question a lot of these things that we've taken for granted. Okay. When we try to understand the causal process that underlies suffering and happiness, we realize that suffering and happiness arise on the basis of multiple conditions. These conditions include internal factors, such as our sense organs, experiences, discriminations, and the like, as well as external factors, such as forms, sound, smell, tastes, and tactile objects. This leads us to inquire, what exactly is the nature of these things that give rise to our experience of pain and pleasure? Do they really exist in the way they appear? Yeah, and in what way do they exist? Okay, so this is an important question. Don't just assume the existence of the self in the way that we can conceive of it right now and the way we grasp it. Yeah, but to really question, Okay, and I find it's really good when you get criticized or insulted, something like that. Somebody attacks you, tells you you're ugly, or calls you a name or whatever it is, and then just say, okay, who are they talking about? They're talking about me. Who? Who, what is the object of that comment? Yeah. It's quite interesting. Oh, they said you're ugly. Okay. Well, what's ugly? My body's ugly? My mind's ugly? Yeah. Is your body ugly? Is it directed towards your body? Yeah. Does your body protest when it's called ugly? Our body is just material stuff. Alone, it doesn't even realize it's getting criticized. Yeah. So if that comment's directed towards the body, yeah, and the body doesn't care because the body doesn't have consciousness, then what is this I that feels so offended because the body got insulted? Yeah? When your body's tired, yeah, we say, I'm tired. Yeah. Well, what is tired? The body is tired, the mind is tired. Sometimes both of them are tired. Okay, but who is the I that is tired? Is there an I that's independent of the body and independent of the mind that is the one being tired? Or do we only say I'm tired because the body's tired or because the mind's tired? And if the body's tired, which is one way of being tired, and the mind's way of being tired is another way of being tired, or why do we lump them together and say, I'm tired? Yeah. And what is tired? Yeah, this is really interesting, Oh, I'm so tired. Okay, how do I know I'm tired? What is the feeling of tired? Yeah, and just sit there. Okay, I say, I'm so tired. How do I know I'm tired? And what do you check? You have to check your body, you have to check your mind, and maybe you get some information from those. But who is the person who's tired? Yeah. Or who's the person that possesses this body and mind that are tired? Yeah. Is the person tired, or is the person the owner of the body and mind which are tired? So who or what is tired, and how do you know you're tired? Okay, so sit with, when you have experiences, pause and just do this kind of reflection of, what is this? Yeah. Okay, so regarding the question, what is the self? What is the nature of the things? The Indian philosophical traditions, both Buddhist and non-Buddhist, have presented various philosophical answers to the questions concerning the origin of both the internal and external worlds and the nature of the subject that undergoes these experiences. Some schools of thought maintain that things and events, including the self, come into being with no cause, while others argue that there is an absolute original cause that is eternal, unchanging, and unitary. All of these questions hinge in one way or another on an understanding of the self. So let us take some time to examine certain aspects of our understanding of the self. Okay, so how were you raised? Yeah, when you were a kid, what were you taught to believe about how you came into existence? Yeah? What were you taught? Mm-hmm.
That a soul inhabits the body, or
Okay.
soul.
The microphone.
Let's keep the mics in the middle of the room instead of the front of the room. It makes it easier to pass back.
That a soul would inhabit the body, or would once the once the conception has occurred, then the soul would move into that space, I guess.
Yeah. Where did the soul come from? What were you taught? It came out of nothing? Something created it?
I was taught that it was God created the spirit and then sent it into the body.
Okay. And how did God come about? Where did God come from?
Well, the theology that I was taught was that once existed as a human, then became a god, and then had spirit children.
Wait,
Yeah.
a human being became God?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Some of us were taught that God was just God from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't hear that one, huh?
No.
Oh, okay. So a human created God, and then God created the soul.
Yeah, the spirit had spirit children, and then they all can become gods and have spirit children. It just continues on and on and on and on.
Okay. But why didn't God create God to start with? That, yeah. Once you start investigating, it becomes rather curious, doesn't it? Yeah, because I remember being a kid, taught, okay, God created human beings, and then I asked, who created God? Well, nobody. Well, then how did God exist? Well, he just does. So this is the permanent cause that they're talking about. Something that didn't arise due to causes and conditions, just is, yeah, and somehow something that's permanent, which means that it depends on causes and conditions, and that it changes every single moment and never remains the same. If that thing changes every moment and never remains the same, how can it be permanent? Because permanent means it doesn't change at all. Yeah, so is God permanent or is God impermanent? Because if he's permanent, he can't create. Because permanent things don't produce a result. They don't change. And to create, you have to change. Okay, so I asked that question. And then I also asked, why did God create? Yeah, what answers, when you asked that question as a kid, what answers did you get about why God created? Yeah.
This is a Sunday school answer, but he was lonely.
Yeah, that's what my Sunday school teacher said too. God was lonely. Now, how many of you were taught that God was lonely? Yeah. So then I said, why was God lonely? Yeah. If God is perfect, and is, meaning always happy, how come God is lonely? That was a riddle, okay? And then I thought, even if I gave the benefit of the doubt and said, okay, God was lonely and created human beings, why did he create such ridiculous human beings?
We got into trouble as soon as he made us, and it was downhill from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, say that into the, yeah.
God, if indeed he was lonely, mine was part of that he showed forth his goodness about something. But then he went ahead and made us, but then he made some problem children, and he had two of them that didn't listen to him, got into all sorts of trouble, and it's been like that ever since. So I think he probably has some regret.
Has some what? Regret. Yeah. I just couldn't figure out, why would God create, sentient beings with so much anger and bias and prejudice and unfairness and misery? You know, it just didn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So, you know, this is the kind of questions that people have been asking, I think, since the beginning. Oh, and by the way, when was the beginning? Yeah. And how, wait a minute, God has always existed, but there was a beginning. That sounds contradictory, doesn't it? If you always exist, then you don't have a beginning. But then in the beginning, well, maybe, okay, that was the beginning of God's mistaken creation. Yeah, the beginning of the universe. Well, then I asked, what happened before the universe was created? Yeah? I mean, because I think we have some idea of things arising due to causes and conditions, don't we? I mean, we live in a world where causes and conditions are right there every day in front of us. Yeah? Why do you go to school? Because you want to create the cause to have a good living. Why do you have a good living? So you have money. Why do you have money? So you can buy all sorts of stuff that you think is going to make you happy. That doesn't. Okay. So, I don't know. I just didn't get it as a kid. I really tried hard to believe this stuff. I really tried. I got to a point where I couldn't. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, because what happened before the beginning? If the beginning's the beginning, then nothing existed before the beginning. If nothing existed before the beginning, how could the beginning arise? Because everything that exists depends on previous causes that had the capacity to produce it. So if there was nothing before the beginning, then what made the beginning arise? Well, God. But who created God? You know, listen, just have your hostess Twinkie and don't ask so many questions. That was the kind of the final message, wasn't it? Yeah. Here, yeah, it's a mystery. Well, it sure is. Yeah. But just eat your Twinkie and be happy. Yeah, they don't make Twinkies anymore, do they? Yeah. How about Hostess cupcakes? Chocolate. They still make those? Oh.
They don't have to make anymore, they last forever.
Oh, they last forever because they don't change. So even when you eat them, they still exist. Okay. Yeah. See, you see already when we start to ask questions about things that are produced, if we say they exist forever, then it means they haven't changed at all. So then that means those Hostess cupcakes never get eaten, because that would change them. They also never get stale. Yeah. Yeah, they have enough chemicals to not get stale. Yeah. Yeah. But as soon as we start exploring things, then we find that, you know, a lot of the ideas that we were taught as kids don't make much sense. Yeah. You know, another one that really doesn't make sense, but the world believes, is if somebody hurt my ancestors, yeah, or somebody hurt a member of my family, yeah, I should want revenge, and I should hate that person who hurt my ancestors. Yeah? Any of you taught that? If you're from the dominant culture, you probably weren't. Yeah. But, yeah, when you look at, remember what happened to Yugoslavia when it split into many different countries? Yeah. And then the people from Serbia were killing the people in Macedonia, were killing the people in where, sorry, Croatia, who were killing. They were all used to be part of one country. Now they're all fighting each other. Why? Because however many centuries ago, your ancestors did this to my ancestors. Yeah. Therefore, yeah, since I have the identity of my ancestors, because we're into identity, then because you harm my ancestors, I have to hate you. Yeah. How many of you came from families where different parts of the family didn't speak to each other? Yeah. Oh my. I have some compatriots here. Amazing. Well, why? You know, I grew up like, okay, the people who live in this part of the building, we don't talk to. Why not? Well, they're just bad people. But they're our relatives. You know, I'm a kid, like, you know, you're supposed to like your brothers and sisters and like your relatives. They're our relatives. How come we're not supposed to talk to them? How come they're bad people? Well, because my grandmother's generation, this one and that one, didn't get along. I have no idea what they did. You know, what happened all those many years ago, probably about a century ago now. Yeah, I never knew what they did. All I knew was the conclusion that those people didn't get along, and so I'm a descendant of this part of the family, and those people live in that, are descendants of that part of the family, so I'm not supposed to talk to them. Huh? I didn't get that. Yeah, why? Yeah, okay, you know, people 100 years ago didn't get along. Why do I have to hate? Because I wasn't alive then, and this person that I'm told to hate now wasn't alive then. So why are we supposed to hate each other? Because something happened to our ancestors. Yeah? Okay. So I asked a lot of questions. I didn't get many answers that made a lot of sense. Okay? But these questions are important to ask because this is what helps us clarify what do we believe and what don't we believe, what makes sense and what is totally illogical. Okay? And as His Holiness and the Buddha both told us and keep telling us, we shouldn't just accept what the Buddha said or what His Holiness says or what anybody says and say, I believe because you said it, but we should question, we should investigate, we should check and see if these things make sense or not. Yeah? Because otherwise, you know, if we just believe whatever some authority says, then when the next authority comes along, we'll believe that one, even though what they believe is the opposite of what the first authority said. Yeah? So this is why it's important, I think, especially in our day and age where there's so much misinformation abounding, you know, that we're able to think clearly and, you know, what makes sense and what is stupadagios. Mhm. Okay. Okay. So some schools of thought maintain that things and events, including the self, come into being with no cause, while others argue there is an absolute original cause that is eternal, unchanging, and unitary. All of these questions hinge in one way or another on an understanding of the self. So let us take some time to examine certain aspects of our understanding of the self. This part's really interesting. We may think that the self is identical with the body. For example, if there is pain in one's hand, we have the instinctive thought, I am in pain. Although one's hand is not oneself, one instinctively identifies with that experience, and in this way the sense of self opens naturally in relation to the body. I'm in pain, I'm tired, I'm walking. Okay, all of this is based on the body. Okay, at the same time, the sense of me is not completely identifiable with the body. Okay, consider the following thought experiment. If someone were to offer us the opportunity to exchange our old, infirm body for a more youthful, healthy body, let's hear it. Who wants to do that? We want a young, healthy body. Okay. So if we had that opportunity, we would most likely be willing, from the very depths of our heart, to make this exchange. Wouldn't we? Yeah? This suggests that we believe, at least on some level, that there is someone, some non-body self, some self that is not the body, who would benefit from this exchange of bodies. Okay, because on one hand, we identify with the body, I'm old and infirm. In another way, we don't identify with the body because we would trade it away for a better one. So, am I my body or am I not my body? I seem to change my mind a lot about it. Mm-mm. We can extend this thought experiment into the mental realm, okay, by considering how we would respond if we were given the opportunity, oh, listen to this one, the opportunity to exchange our ignorant, deluded mind exchange it for the Buddha's fully enlightened mind. Surely we would be willing to enter into this exchange, imagining again that there is someone, some non-mind self, who would benefit. Yeah? If you could exchange your present confused mind with the Buddha's mind, wouldn't you do it? Yeah. I mean, who likes this muddled mess inside here? Yeah. So, but on the other hand, we say, I'm happy, yeah, I'm thinking, I'm pondering. These are all things experienced or done by the mind. Okay, so and sometimes we feel like I am my mind. Yeah, especially when somebody dies and the consciousness leaves the body. Yeah, we assume that the person is the mind. Yeah, that mind's going on to another life. That's so and so. Yeah. Actually, okay, so you have, who are we talking about? Joe. Okay, Joe's alive. The consciousness leaves the body. Yeah? And we say Joe's going on to another life. Is the consciousness Joe? Yeah. If the consciousness were Joe, then when Joe was born in another body, he would still be Joe. Yeah. But maybe Joe got born as a god in the god realm, or maybe Joe is one of the stink bugs on the wall. Is that Joe? Is that Joe? Is Joe's mind? No. But on the other hand, we say I'm thinking like the I is the one who's thinking because the mind thinks. Okay, so do you see, with both the body and the mind, sometimes we have this feeling that they are who I am, and sometimes we have the feeling like they are something different than me that I happen to temporarily own or be in possession of. Okay, so do you see how unclear our mind is about something very basic? Yeah. In our naive view of the world, we cling to our feeling that there is a self that in some sense is the master of our body and mind, an ancient that is independent and bears its own distinct identity. So sometimes, okay, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, but I am the boss of the body and mind. I'm the one who makes decisions. Body, lift your hand. Okay, body, put your hand down. Okay, body, or mind, be happy. Okay, I'm trying. Mind, feel sorry for yourself. Yes, immediately. Yeah, but we feel like the I is something totally different than the body and mind, who is the master and bosses the body and mind around. Yeah, do you have that feeling sometimes? Yeah, that's the feeling of, okay, my concentration is lousy, but if I really tried, if I told my mind really to sit there and concentrate, I could have shamatha like that. Yeah, because I can boss my mind around and make it do what I want it to do. Now, similarly, I can boss my body around, so if I told my body to fly, I would take off. That doesn't work so well. But that's the problem of the body, because I am the boss and the body just doesn't listen. Okay, so that's another feeling of what I is. You know, some independent agent with its own distinct identity. Those who believe in rebirth may imagine that it is this self that spans across successive lives of the same individual. Yeah. Even in the case of someone who does not believe in multiple lives, there is a notion of a somehow unchanging entity, a me, that goes through different stages of life, from childhood to middle age and so on to old age and death. Clearly, we have a belief that there is something in many lives or in one life that retains continuity over time. And that thing has to be permanent and able to make its next moment. But again, if it's permanent, it doesn't change, so how can it come in the next moment and be something different? Yeah. When, I remember when Lama Yeshe died, you know, and then Lama Osa was identified, and people would go see Lama Osa, And then when they came out, someone would say, "Did he recognize you? Yeah? Does he have the same sense of, is that Lama?" Yeah, as if Lama were one identifiable thing that just happened to leave that one body and then go get born in the next body, but exactly the same person, yeah, who remembers exactly the same people, has the exact same personality, yeah, but Lama Osel was just a baby going goo goo gaga, or he got older and, said, "Oh, Mani Padme Hum" instead. But, yeah, is that the same person? He's very different than Lama, yeah? But people somehow expected it to be the same person. Yeah, it's not. Mm-hmm. But is it totally different? No, there's some kind of continuity. Yeah. There's a continuity, but all the moments along that continuity are different. They aren't the same. It is this sense of continuity that leads people in many non-Buddhist religions to assert that there is an eternal soul or Atman that is unitary, unchanging, and independent of the physical and mental constituents of the person. In other words, an absolute reality. However, the Buddhist schools teach that if one searches for the essence of the self, this absolute reality, with sufficient rigor and sufficiently critical analysis, one will inevitably discover that it cannot be found. So what we so much believe in and feel exists, and what we have developed a whole theology about, when we investigate and ask what really is this self, we can't identify anything that is it. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? So I like making the analogy of the boogeyman. People grow up with the idea of the boogeyman. Okay. Yeah, they don't have the boogeyman in Singapore. Yeah. In New Zealand, they have the boogeyman. Okay, he speaks English. He speaks Australian. Yes. Yeah. So what, we all grew up believing in the boogeyman, and we grew up believing in the tooth fairy. Yeah. Yeah. What about Santa Claus? Did you believe in Santa Claus? Yeah. And the Easter Bunny? Yeah. And when you're a kid, you really believe in these things, and you live your life. You got to be good because Santa's coming. Yeah. And so you try and be good as you drop hints to your parents about what Santa should bring you. Yeah. Or you're afraid of the boogeyman, because he hides under your bed. Yeah. What does he do during the day when you're not in bed? Is the boogeyman still under your bed? No, where did he go? You don't know? Wait a minute, you should find out where he went, because then you could prevent him from coming back. Okay, so we can develop a whole philosophy about the boogeyman and where he exists and what we can do to, get rid of him so he doesn't come and bother us. Same thing with the devil. who grew up believing in the devil. So if you have bad thoughts, it's not your fault. The devil made me do it. Then why do you get punished? Did you ever say that, Mom and Dad? when you were obnoxious, and they said, "What the devil did you get into?" And you said, "The devil made me do it. So don't punish me, punish the devil." Yeah? Did you say that to your folks? You should have. It makes sense. If the devil made you do it, blame the devil. Who created the devil? That was another one of the questions. Yeah, God. Why in the world did God create the devil? I mean, we're bad enough. Yeah, and you need a devil in addition? I don't know. So, yeah, but when we check, okay, you're looking for the boogeyman, you're looking for the devil. Yeah, you look all over, under your bed, in the attic, yeah, in the stocking on the Christmas mantle place. Maybe the boogeyman's in there, preventing you from getting what you want. Yeah. When you look all over, yeah, in your backpack, yeah, in your classroom, in your mom and dad's wallet, where is the boogeyman? And at a certain point you say, I can't find the boogeyman. Maybe boogeyman doesn't exist. Yeah. When you say, oh, there's no boogeyman, then what happens? You're no longer afraid of the boogeyman. You relax. You can go to bed. When you find out that there's no Santa, then what happens? There's no Santa. Well, what happened to Santa? He ate too much and got stuck in the chimney. I don't know. Yeah. What happened to the Easter Bunny? What happened to Santa? Where did they go? Yeah. Well, they never. Yeah. Did Santa ever exist? Yeah. Did the boogeyman ever exist? Did your realization that they don't exist make them non-existent? Or did they once exist and you're figuring out they didn't exist, made them non-existent? Or have they never existed? And were you fooled? Which was it? You're sitting there like, yeah. No, they never existed. Wow, and we wasted so much time trying to impress Santa so that we could get the train or the Barbie doll that we wanted. I didn't like trains or Barbie dolls, but they were the things you were supposed to like. Yeah, you can see from the beginning I was kind of weird. Yeah, I didn't play house. Oh, God, how can you play house? Isn't playing house ridiculous, Anyway, so, yeah. So you find out that, wow, you spent so much mental energy and time, yeah, doing something, a certain thing, because you wanted to scare away the boogeyman and you wanted to impress Santa. And wow, they never existed. What would you have done with all that time and energy if you had been aware that they didn't exist? And so you didn't need to be afraid and you didn't need to impress. Yeah. So what we're getting at here is this self that we think, really exists, and is something that's there that self perpetuates itself, that is the essence of me, that has to be protected at all costs, happy at whenever possible, never suffer, always be appreciated, always be loved, and owes nothing to the world, because we receive all of this. We figure out that that kind of self doesn't exist. Wow. Who was I trying to protect for so long? Yeah. This I, needs to be protected. What is this I that needs to be protected? Okay, but boy, we certainly spend a lot of time and energy protecting this I, exalting this I, putting it forth into the world. Yeah, and we don't even know what it is, or if it even exists. We just assume it does. So this kind of search reveals that it is only on the basis of the physical and mental aggregates of the individual that one can speak of the continuity of the person. There's no continuity of the person if there's no body and if there's no mind. So for instance, when an individual's body and mind, the aggregates, age, we can say that the person ages. Buddhists, therefore, reject the notion of an eternal, unchanging entity and argue instead that the concept of a self as possessing such characteristics is merely a metaphysical construct, a fabrication created by the mind, as real as the boogeyman and Santa Claus. Although all beings have an innate sense of self, the concept of an eternal, unchanging, unitary, and autonomous self is present only in the minds of those who have thought about the issue. Okay, so those are all the theologians, who thought about, okay, well, there's the universe, how did it exist? And then they develop some theory and some idea of a God and some idea of a soul that we all have. Yeah. Did you ever wonder, okay, they said I have a soul. What is my soul? Yeah. How do I know I have a soul? Well, I feel it. What does it feel like having a soul feel like? Yeah? What is... Okay, well, let's try another question. I feel like I exist. What does feeling like I exist feel like? I feel an I exists. What is this I that exists? Well, I feel it. I feel it, therefore it must exist in the way that I apprehend it as some permanent, partless, independent master of the body and mind. Well, I feel like it's there, but when I investigate to find out what it is, it's like sand falling out of your hand, That's not it, that's not it, that's not it. Nothing. Okay. Does that mean that there's no person that exists? Okay. That's going to the other extreme. clearly there's people that exist because there's people sitting in this room. Okay. Yeah? Are you sitting in this room? Yeah. Am I just dreaming about you? Oh, the dream of perfect people listening to my perfect talk. Yeah? That doesn't work. Okay, so there is a person, we do exist, but the way we exist as some permanent, partless, independent master of the body and mind, able to set itself up and self-perpetuate, we don't exist in that way. Okay, how do we exist? By being merely designated. What? I just exist just because somebody made up a name? I am more than a name. I am me. Well, the people who said that you exist by being merely designated aren't saying that you're only a name, because it's more than a name that's sitting in this room. But what's sitting in the room also isn't some inherently existent person. Yeah, that is the most important one in the world. Okay, so the self exists, but it doesn't exist in the way we think it exists. Okay, so that kind of self is the one that is somehow solid, is a metaphysical construct, a fabrication created by the mind. Although all beings have an innate sense of self, the concept of the self, that's what is the problem. Okay. After their own critical investigation, however, Buddhists conclude that the self can be understood only as a dependent phenomena contingent on the physical and mental aggregates. Okay, contingent, depend. Okay, if I depend on something, can I be those things? No. Okay. But if I depend on my body and mind, can I exist without my body and mind? Well, according to some theologians, you do. Yeah, and according to Hollywood, too. I watched one movie, where in the movie the person died, something arose out of the body, some amorphous cloud went over here and went into the body of the family dog, and thus the father was born as the dog. Yeah, Hollywood's really good, They should have made the dog be reborn as the father. That would have been better. Okay. Okay. So in addition to negating the concept of an eternal and absolute self, Buddhists also deny the naive sense of a self as master of the body and mind. Since Buddhists claim that it is impossible to find a self beyond the physical and mental components, this precludes the possibility of an independent agent controlling them. From the Buddhist point of view, the non-Buddhist conceptions of self as an absolute eternal entity reinforces the mistaken instinct to believe in a self that controls our body and mind. Therefore, with the exception of some subdivisions of the Buddhist Vaibhasika school, all classical Indian Buddhist schools reject the concept of a substantially real, enduring, eternal entity called self, or I, me. Okay. Now His Holiness is going to go into a slightly different topic that does join back to this. So he's going to talk about the 4 seals. This is also in volume 3, 2. 3, I think it's 3 too, at the beginning. Okay, so we have established thus that the doctrine of no self is central to Buddhism. In fact, there are 4 such central axioms that characterize the Buddhist understanding of existing. Okay, so these 4 axioms are known as the 4 seals that seal or certify that a certain doctrine is Buddhist. So first, all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Okay. Second, all contaminated or polluted phenomena are unsatisfactory and in the nature of dukkha. Third, all things and events are empty or devoid of self-existence. And fourth, nirvana is true peace. Okay, so let us examine each of these in turn. So first, all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. So the first axiom states that all things and events that we experience go through a perpetual process of change, even on a moment-by-moment basis. Do you feel like you're changing moment by moment? Are you the same person as you were yesterday? Are you sure you're a different person? Really? You're no longer you? Are you the same person as you were yesterday? Oh, all of a sudden wow, everybody's so quiet. Now I know how to make a group quiet. Yeah? So next time when the dining room sounds like a restaurant, all I have to do is say, do you feel like you're the same person as you were yesterday? And everybody will be quiet. Hey, that's a good one, huh? I wish I had known that when I was a teacher. That would have been helpful, wouldn't it? With your classroom, to just be able to say that, then all of a sudden, all the kids are quiet. Okay. All things come into being at a certain point and also cease to exist at a certain point. They break, perish, or disintegrate, and so on. This is something that all of us can observe in our day-to-day experience with our possessions, our physical ailments, and our emotional states. Things change all the time. Okay? Your computer works, it doesn't work. Okay? Your stomach hurts, your stomach doesn't hurt. Yeah, you're happy one moment, you're confused the next moment. So we're aware of this kind of gross change. Yeah, we do not require any particular logical proof to arrive at this understanding. However, for something to come into being and then later cease, the process of change must be occurring continuously, moment by moment. The cessation of any phenomena does not come about instantaneously, but as a result of an ongoing process. So when we think of change, we think of the gross change, okay? The building falls down, the car crashes, the china cup it was a family heirloom breaks. You know, we're aware of those kind of changes. But is it that, you know, this precious Chinese cup, you know, that was an heirloom in your family since even before the whoever it was came over to this country, because we're all immigrants, you know. Even the Native Americans came from Asia. Yeah. So this precious object that now, you know, you weren't allowed to touch as a kid because you might break it. Now you're an adult and you broke it accidentally. Okay, oh dear. So that is gross suffering, okay? You spill spaghetti on the carpet. Yeah. Yeah, did you do? Huh?
Gross impermanence. She said gross suffering. It could be that too.
Yeah, well, you pour spaghetti sauce on the carpet, that's gross impermanence.
Right, we said suffering.
Oh, well, it could be suffering too, yes. The carpet goes, ouch. No, we suffer. The carpet doesn't care. Yeah? The carpet doesn't care whether there's spaghetti sauce on it or not. We care. We suffer. But the carpet doesn't care. Yeah. I want white teeth. My teeth don't care if they're white. Yeah? All these advertisements for this toothpaste that will make your teeth white, yeah, they seem to be directed at my teeth, but my teeth don't care. You know, they can be as yellow as they want to be. Yeah. But I want my teeth to be white. Who's that I? And why in the world do I want them to be white? Oh, I want them to be white because that commercial said they should be white. Some guy on a commercial who's getting paid to do the commercial is the one deciding that my teeth should be white and that I don't have any dandruff on my shoulders. Who is this guy telling me what I should look like? He's just an actor getting paid. Why do I listen to him? Yeah? Well, he is an actor, isn't it? Yeah? Remember that they don't have the dandruff commercials. Do they still have those? I don't watch TV. You know? Yeah. But back in my day, if you had dandruff on your shoulders, forget it. Nobody will ask you out on a date. Forget it. You won't go to the high school prom. You know, you won't join a sorority or a fraternity. You will be totally out of it if you have those little flakes that your body made. Yeah. So you want somebody to love your body, but what your body made, the dandruff, they dislike. And they also don't like your bad breath. And they don't like your BO. But I'm supposed to be attractive. Yeah. Are you coming to the conclusion that maybe we're confused? And that our society is perpetuating a lot of garbage? Yeah. And that the misinformation it didn't start with Trump. It started with the dandruff commercial. But before the dandruff commercial, there were the commercials on how to clean the toilet. Yeah. Do you remember? Ring around the toilet. Yeah? Remember that jingle? Ring around the toilet. Yeah. And your husband comes home, and there's a ring around the toilet, and he marches out, and that's the end of the marriage. So if you want to stay married, you better use Ajax in your toilet, and you better use, what is it, Dawn hand soap? Yeah? Because if you don't use, no, dishwashing soap. If you don't use this brand of dishwashing soap, yeah, he's going to leave you. But if he has dandruff and bad breath, then you're going to leave him. So why did you get married to start with? Why did you get attracted to somebody to start with? You know? And these are billion-dollar industries, aren't they? Yeah, that we're told we need to have or believe in order to be worthwhile people. And you need to drive a certain car, okay? Have certain levels or certain abbreviations after your name. Yeah, you want PhD or JD or what else? MD, yeah, DDS. Yeah, you need some. One of my friends now has OLD after their name. That's the most truthful one, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to understand how things suddenly come to an end without recognizing the process of moment-to-moment disintegration. In other words, if something were permanent and boing, you drop that Chinese heirloom cup and it crashed, it was permanent, and then whammo, in one instant, it changed. Yeah? So if it never changed, because that's what permanent means, then what made it suddenly change? Yeah, something that's permanent can't change. Something that is impermanent, changing moment by moment, can never stop changing, because every moment that exists produces a result. Why? Because it was produced by its own cause. The cause was impermanent, the result's impermanent, it becomes the cause of something in the future that is also permanent. And when we investigate, it isn't like there's moments, it isn't, how to say, like, the old 8mm film. I don't know how film is done now with digital stuff, but there were little individual frames, and it was only by the frames going really fast that it looked like things were changing. But that's not how impermanence is. It isn't, okay, here's one frame of something that is permanent, then the next frame of something that is permanent, then the next frame of something that's impermanent. It's not like that. Yeah. It's something is actually arising and existing and ceasing all at the same time. Yeah. And that you can't pinpoint a moment in which you can say, here it is unchanging. Sit with that one for a while. Well, your mind says, well, wait a minute. There is a beginning and middle and end. So it's arising in the beginning. It's permanent in the middle. And then when it ends, it's disintegrating. Okay, well, let's take the moment of arising. That moment in which it arises and comes into existence. Doesn't that moment have three parts? Doesn't arising have a beginning, a middle, and an end? So is that moment arising? It arises, then it's permanent, and then it ends. But it's also arising in the same moment that it's ending. How can those come at the same time? Yeah? How can they exist at the same time? And where in the world is this present moment that we're supposed to be in all the time? You know? You're supposed to be in the present moment. Where is this present moment? Which present moment? Because by the time you say this present moment, you're on to the next one. So which permanent moment, which present moment are you in? And doesn't the present moment have a beginning, middle, and end? And which moment are you in? The beginning of the beginning, the middle of the beginning, or the end of the beginning? Or maybe you're in the middle moment, and you're in the beginning of the middle moment, the middle of the middle moment, or the end of the middle moment. Or maybe you're in the end of the moment, so you have a beginning to the end, and then you have a middle of the end, and then you have the end of the end. Right? You agree? Keep thinking. Okay? And, this thing, this story that you hear, I hear some Buddhists say it, but the way I've heard it is entirely different. But the way I've heard it said, some people say, they give you the dream. This is the story for being in the present moment. So you're walking along the edge of a cliff, and you're not wearing shoes from REI that cost so much. And so you slip and fall and off the cliff. And as you're falling, there's a branch, and you grab the branch. Okay, so there you are, holding on to that branch, looking down, knowing where you're going to go. But you're holding on to that branch, and what do you see? Next to it, within your arm's reach, is a strawberry. A beautiful, sweet strawberry. So the story goes, be in this moment. Don't think about falling down and looking like a broken blob at the bottom of the cliff, which you'll be in a few minutes. But focus on that strawberry and taste it. And be in the moment with the pleasure of tasting that strawberry. Yeah, and that's taught to be in the moment, what it means to be in the moment. Some people say, my teachers tell the same story, and you're hanging on that branch, and it's going to break, and you see the strawberry. Why in the world are you going to get distracted by eating that strawberry? Shouldn't you prepare for death? Because death is certain. That branch is going to break, and pretty soon. And dreaming about how good that strawberry tastes is really dumb. Isn't it? Yeah? Because how long does that blissful taste of a strawberry last? Not very. But Does the blissful taste of the strawberry prevent you from falling down the cliff, the branch breaking and falling down the cliff? No. If you're going to die, what do you need to do before you die? Because that branch is going to break. So you don't need to eat a strawberry before you die. You need to prepare your mind to be able to let go of everything you're attached to this life and to develop a mind of wisdom and compassion and take that with you onto the next life. That's what's important. Don't you think? More important than tasting strawberries? Okay? So it's interesting how same story, people tell it very differently. Yeah? I was at the group of one Buddhist group in another town, and they were going around in a circle, kind of saying what they noticed in the present moment in the last week. Yeah, and everybody's telling about, oh, I saw some children play. Well, not everybody was saying this. One person's, oh, I was watching the children play at the playground, and it was so blissful watching them play. I guess the kids weren't fighting. Just wait a couple of minutes, they will. But, at that moment, very happy. Somebody else, oh, I went out to dinner with so-and-so, and we had such a good talk. And, people were mentioning all these things. But when you stop and ask, at the end of the day, what is really important? Watching the children. It's nice to watch kids be happy at a playground. That's nice. But is that the meaning and purpose in our life? Is that what you want to have as the last thought when you die? Yeah. So these are important questions to ask ourselves, because this life is not permanent, and it's ending each moment like this, and we're changing. It's not that you're young and then, I kept hearing my teachers, when they came to the section on old age, and when they talk about the defects of samsara, old age. Well, yeah, I'll get to old age, but later. And and somehow I'm going to be a zesty old person. Yes. And gracious and not complaining. And anyway, I'm not really going to get old. I'm always going to be young. Old happens to other people. Death happens to other people. Right? Don't you agree? Yeah? It always happens to other people. It's not going to happen to me. And then it really is interesting, because you look in the mirror every day, because you got to see if your teeth got any whiter and if your dad went away. But whenever you look in the mirror, you're always young. And that it's really interesting, because it's just like the teachings say. One day you look in the mirror, and from one day to the next, you became old. You didn't have all these wrinkles before. They just came overnight. Yeah? Amazing. And what is the collagen or something in your cheeks that you lose, which makes you look slightly thinner when you're old? Mm-hmm. Yeah? That just happened overnight. That's what it feels like. But it didn't happen overnight, did it? Yeah? What is the cause of aging? Being born. What is the cause of dying? Being born. Yeah, the moment we're born, which it's hard to pinpoint, even though they put something on your birth certificate as this is the moment you were born. Yeah. Were you born at the beginning, middle, or end of that moment? And what is the demarcation of being born? Okay, if your mom's having natural childbirth, is it when they can first see the very small part of the tip of your head? But what happens if you're a breech baby? Well, anyway, we'll go with this one. So is that being born when you first crowned? Or is it when you're halfway out? Or is it when your feet are out? Yeah. So which is the moment that you're born? When your feet are out? Or when they pick you up by the feet, welcome to this world, whack you in the bottom so that you howl? Yeah. Which is the exact moment of birth? Can you pinpoint it? It's on your birth certificate. Yeah. It's interesting. When we start asking questions, yeah, we think we know what something is, what its real nature is, when it really existed, when it came into being. When we start questioning, it gets really murky, doesn't it? Which moment were you born? Which moment did you get old? Yeah. When we die, they're going to have a moment of death. Basically, they just, yeah, what is the moment you die? The moment they turn off all the machines? Or the moment you start breathing? Stop breathing? Or the moment your heart stops? Or the moment your brain stops? There's different definitions of death. Oh my goodness, you don't know when you're really dead. When the consciousness leaves the body? When are you really dead? Okay? So the point in all this is that, there's a few points. One is that change happens like this, and that it's not individual moments of a permanent, it's not a sequence of permanent individual moments. Yeah, that you can never really pinpoint something. Yeah, that's one point of this. Another point is we use words and we communicate using words. But when we start to really ask what a word means, it can get confusing. And then you realize, it's kind of amazing that we ever communicate at all. Because, okay, lunch is ready. Everybody knows what lunch is ready means. Okay? Lunch is ready. But when you ask, what is lunch ready mean? Does it mean that everything's on the table? What happens if the serving utensils aren't? Is lunch ready if the serving utensils aren't? What if all the dishes are there except the spaghetti noodles? Yeah. What happens, is lunch ready when the noodles aren't there? Yeah. What is the exact moment when lunch is ready? Is it when we line up? Is it when the first person takes some food, or when the last person takes some food? And what if the first person only takes a little bit of food? Was lunch ready if they didn't take something of everything? Yeah. So you see, when we communicate, everybody knows lunch is ready. We all know what to do. But when you ask, when does that happen, we can't really identify it. So the point of this is, words are good to communicate, but words are only words. It's really difficult to pinpoint what words mean, and that sometimes our words block us into something. The present moment, I know what it is, yeah, but we don't really know. Okay? So I know you want me to say lunch is ready. But we have a few paragraphs to go before it is. Okay, so lunch being ready depends on paragraphs, right? Okay. All things come into existence at a certain point. Okay, the cessation of any phenomenon does not come about instantaneously, but as a result of an ongoing process. Okay. Okay, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to understand how things suddenly come to an end without recognizing the process of moment-to-moment disintegration. The fact that things do indeed eventually come to an end suggests that they are necessarily undergoing moment-to-moment change. And here His Holiness uses the example of the sun rising and the sun setting. So this is the beginning of the day, sun setting is the end of the day. Yeah. What happened in between? Did you just go from the beginning to the end like that? No, there was the whole process. Okay, we're using the old view of cosmology, of the sun moving across the sky. Actually, we know it's the earth turning, but as the earth turns. You remember that one too? As the world turns. Okay, sorry. Yeah, it was a soap opera for all you young uns. Yeah. So, the sun goes through this whole process of moving across the sky, and it's only because of moment-to-moment change that we go from sunrise to sunset. Yeah, well, that's a song too. Sunrise, sunset. Yeah. Oh, you see how we're conditioned? Yeah? Okay. Almost all Buddhist schools accept that all things and events carry within them the seed of their own cessation from the very moment they come into being. It is not the case that only through the effects of some other object or event does a given object or event cease to be. It contains the seed for its cessation within itself. So it's not that, that precious heirloom china cup is permanent, and it's only because some other thing made it cease, like, an elephant walking into the china shop and whacking it off with its trunk, and then it ceased. You don't need an external agent to make something cease. Because something arose from a cause, that very nature means it is automatically in the process of ceasing. Okay? An example may clarify this point. Consider a building such as a house. Our ordinary understanding of causality would lead us to say that the house ceases only because someone demolishes it. However, the fact that all conditioned phenomena, in this case a house, are impermanent, leads us to understand that the house will eventually cease whether someone demolishes it or not. It falls apart. Okay, we're building a Buddha hall that is already in the process of disintegrating. So why are we building it if it ends, if it's going to end? Do we only take care of things that are never going to end? No, everything's going to end. We better take care of it in the present moment, which doesn't exist. Okay, so, however, the fact that all conditioned phenomena, in this case the house, are impermanent leads us to understand that the house will eventually cease whether someone demolishes it or not. The house is continuously decaying in many different ways and will ultimately cease because it is, by its very nature, impermanent. Left abandoned, it will eventually fall into disrepair and collapse on its own. So according to Buddhism, it is not the case, as we tend to believe in our naive understanding of the world, that one event causes something and another condition at some later point brings about that thing's cessation. Really? Yeah, we think one thing caused something and one thing ends it, don't we? Yeah. In other words, things do not first come into being, remain in an unchanging state for a period of time, and then suddenly cease to exist. All phenomena, things and events, without exception, are ceaselessly undergoing a process of moment-to-moment change, moment-to-moment disintegration. And at the moment-to-moment disintegration, at that same time, something new is arising, and you have moment-to-moment arising. Nevertheless, when we think about the origination of something or of things or events, we tend to consider them from an affirmative perspective. A thing comes into existence, perhaps by being born, and persists, perhaps by growing. In contrast, when we think of something coming to an end, going out of existence, we tend to view this in negative terms, the end of something that really existed previously. We tend to see these two, origination and cessation, as contradictory and incompatible. We imagine that they are two mutually exclusive states of being. If something is arising, it can't be ceasing at the same time, we think. In actual fact, something arising is something ceasing, because if something didn't cease, something couldn't arise. The cause has to cease for the result to come. Yeah? When does something cease being a cause and start being the result? That's another question. However, this first axiom of Buddhism tells us that because phenomena are impermanent, they continually, moment by moment, undergo a process of change. This momentariness, then, is the Buddhist definition of impermanence. When we understand impermanence in this way, we see that, in fact, origination and cessation are not mutually exclusive. They are instead one phenomena, impermanence, viewed from two perspectives. So when the seed is becoming a sprout, in one way, yeah, the sprout is arising from the seed. In another way, the seed is ceasing. So the arising of the sprout and the ceasing of the seed are happening at the same time. But then we can't really delineate at which moment this sprout begins. You can cut it into smaller and smaller units of time, but we can never pinpoint when exactly the seed has ceased, when exactly the sprout has arisen. Okay, the very fact that something comes into being makes it possible and indeed necessary for that thing to cease. Its origination is the primary condition for its ultimate cessation. So when we understand the impermanence of all things, we understand that they are going through this process of cessation each moment. This is the significance of the first axiom of Buddhism, that all composite phenomena are impermanent. Okay.